For those of you out there thinking that there is not a double standard when it comes to Lamar Jackson, you would be wrong. Now, if you don't believe me, let me explain. For the past several years, there has been nothing but incessant talk about Lamar Jackson's playoff failures.
You hyped him out to be the greatest thing in the world, and then he plays a bad playoff game, which, by the way, he's played in plethora. San Diego, Tennessee, Buffalo, plethora of bad games. It's a situation where you get criticized because you're being too hard on him.
We looked at him and nobody questioned that he deserved his money. Nobody questioned his greatness as a quarterback. Nobody questioned anything other than the fact that you have not won a Super Bowl. Now,
how is greatness ultimately defined?
How many championships you have,
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
It's by what you do in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And so until he proves it in the playoffs, especially because of what he's done in the regular season, who's got more pressure on him?
When the playoffs start, there's not going to be anybody that has more playoff pressure than Lamar.
When it came to his contract extension, when it comes to his legacy being ranked as one of the better quarterbacks in the league, all they talk about are his wins in the playoffs, his lack of success when it comes postseason time and getting to a Super Bowl.
If he has to pass to win the game, they're not winning the game. He's so unique as an athlete, and he's a really good football player, but I don't care if he wins the league MVP 12 times. I don't think he'll ever be a 1 as a quarterback. He'll be a 1 as a football player, but not as a quarterback. So many games come down to 2 minutes, and that is why they have a hard time advancing even when they're good on defense.
Yet and still, we have other quarterbacks out there that seemingly get passes for their lack of or not even making it to the postseason. Case in point, we have some quarterbacks that just got paid recently and became some of the highest paid players in NFL history. One of the quarterbacks having 1 win, a couple of the quarterbacks having no wins at all. One of the quarterbacks was touted the next great thing, and he has had trouble making the playoffs since he got into the league, even though he was on a very talented team that had pieces on the offense and defensive side of the ball. But his struggles and his late season collapses didn't do his team any justice. But yet and still, there was a point in time where he became the highest paid, along with a few others. But when it comes to Lamar Jackson, even though he had at the time won an MVP, there were squabbles about should he get paid? Is he worth it? I wouldn't give this much money to a quarterback. But then months later, when they gave it to someone else, all the talk's quieted. But when it comes to Lamar Jackson, there seems to be a second set of rules in determining how the position or the player, we shall say, they're worth being determined. Now, let's rewind it back before the start of the 2023 season. All the talk was, hey, Lamar needs to do something in the postseason. He needs to advance to at least an AFC championship for this season to be a success and for us to see growth in him as a quarterback and him to be mentioned with the elites of the game right now. Fast forward to the end of the season, what did Lamar Jackson do? He took the Baltimore Ravens to the best record in the NFL and also led them to the AFC championship game, which inevitably they did lose, but that was not the prerequisite before the season started. They talked about just get to the game, just get where you have not gotten before, and he did that. And now all the talk is, oh, here he goes again. Great regular season quarterback, but when it comes to the postseason, he can't get it done. Once again, as always, move that goalpost. You set a goal for him, he hits it. Now, oh no, he did that, but wait. He needs to go do something else. And these are the inconsistencies that we point out that we see from all the people that talk about Lamar Jackson, but then we become stans. We become Lamar defenders. But no one wants to take into account how people say one thing, but they really mean something else. And no matter what Lamar does, it's always going to be a but or an asterisk beside his name.
What is this critique and this criticism of Lamar Jackson? Where is it coming from? There's only one. You haven't been to a Super Bowl. You haven't won a Super Bowl championship. You're a 2-time league MVP. There are 9 people, Molly, that have won Super Bowl championships, that have been 2-time league MVPs.
And not only did Lamar make it to the AFC championship game, he won his second MVP award. Almost second unanimously, only because there was a hater out there that was like, yo, I don't want to give it to him. I don't want him to get that recognition. And speaking of the recognition, I understand to an extent, tiny extent, why some, not all, some have something to say about Lamar. Because let's look at it. Lamar is the youngest player in college football to win the Heisman Trophy. Did that. He's the youngest individual to come into the NFL and be a 2-time MVP. Came and he did that. So I can understand that there are some that have an expectation of him, but there are expectations put on a lot of first-round quarterbacks. Remember, Lamar Jackson was the 32nd pick of the first round in 2018. He wasn't number 1 overall. He wasn't top 10, but yet and still he's exceeded more than the quarterbacks taken ahead of him. Yes, Josh Allen has more passing yards. Josh Allen has more touchdowns. But as far far as individual awards, Lamar Jackson is in a category by himself. So that brings us here right now. Is it going to be Super Bowl or bust for Lamar Jackson? That question, I don't know. He has stated himself many times, all he wants is to bring a championship to Baltimore.
Your second MVP season, you've been an All-Pro, you've been a Pro Bowl. For you, is Super Bowl kind of the last checkbox in your mind, at least for the immediate goals that you have for yourself?
I mean, that's been the first checkbox for me since 2018. You know, I said that April 26th, whenever I was drafted, I said that, you know, and I meant that this is the highest level of this game, you know, we play. You got to go out a champion. That's what I want to be labeled as, a champion, you know, not just MVP here and there. Like, I want to be a champion.
And I believe him. I truly believe him. I believe he wants to win one for the city. He wants to win one for his teammates more than he wants to win one for himself. But until that point, let's not just gloss over the fact that Lamar Jackson is one of the most successful quarterbacks in NFL history. Over 100 years of the NFL. And Lamar Jackson has accomplished things that a lot of the greats have not. Let's just look at quarterbacks to win at least 70% of their games with a minimum of 25 starts. Number one, of course, is Patrick Mahomes, winning 77% of his games. Then you have Tom Brady, who's won 75% of his games. Lamar Jackson comes in third with 75% of his games. Then you have legendary Roger Staubach, who's won 74% of his games. All-time great Joe Montana, who's won 71% of his games. And Joe Montana had some stacked clubs throughout the 80s and 90s. And he only won 71% of the time. And coming in at number 6, a lot of people's GOAT, Peyton Manning, who's won 70% of his games. So you have Joe Montana, Peyton Manning, two of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. They are at 71 and 70% of their games. Lamar Jackson, in a league that is supposed to be full of parity, has won 75% of his games, even though he is not a quarterback nor is he a passer, which some exclaim. But yet still his winning percentage is top 3 all time. Not to mention, Peyton Manning had his struggles in the beginning of his career when it came to playoff wins. But everybody knew that he had potential and eventually he would break through to the other side, which he did. And Lamar still has a chance to do. But yet and still we want to bring him down for not making it to a Super Bowl. Listen, give all the flowers to Patrick Mahomes. He's dominating. There have not been many quarterbacks, especially from the AFC side, to make it to a Super Bowl outside of Tom Brady and Joe Burrow. Patrick Mahomes got it, and Patrick Mahomes took it from the Ravens last season. So I'm not understanding what all the chatter is about. They expected Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs to make the Super Bowl. So why is Lamar Jackson getting all of this flack for something that he wasn't thought of that he could do in the first place? I'm not understanding that. Patrick Mahomes is so great, you expect him to be at the Super Bowl every year. So why is it when Lamar doesn't make it, it's a big story, it's a big whoop to do. Now, I do understand Lamar is one of 10 players, approximately 10 players, to win 2 MVP awards. All of those players have at least 2 Super Bowls. Lamar has yet to have his one. And this has been brought up on shows and talked about in many different forms. But this is the one thing that a lot of people aren't telling you. Yes, 2-time MVP, no Super Bowls, no Super Bowl appearances. But let's look at 4 of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And this isn't even an argument except for one of them. I will argue one of them isn't one of the greatest, but a lot of people put him up there. So let's talk about the ages of a lot of these quarterbacks when they won their first Super Bowl. Peyton Manning, once again, a lot of people's GOAT, didn't win his first Super Bowl till he was 30. Drew Brees, first to pass for 5,000 yards and do it consistently. Considered an all-time great. Never won an MVP. I think he got snubbed a couple times, but he didn't win his first Super Bowl, his first and only Super Bowl, until he was 31 years old. Then we have Hall of Famer, some people's all-time great, Steve Young. Steve Young didn't win his first Super Bowl with him being the starting quarterback until he was 33 years old. Only one he won, but he still got it. And last but not least, one of my childhood favorites. I've rooted for them and watched them lose Super Bowl after Super Bowl after Super Bowl growing up. John Elway. He, especially before this new wave of quarterbacks, was considered one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in NFL history by some. He did not win his first Super Bowl till he was 37 years old. He was darn near my age when he won his first Super Bowl. And yet and still, Lamar isn't even 30. He will be turning 28 soon. 28 years old, but we're still talking about what he has not done yet when some of the all-time greats, it took them 10 years of their career, damn near, to get to their first Super Bowl and win it. But because this is Lamar Jackson and the NFL doesn't want to spin this narrative of scrambling quarterbacks, which they label him as, because he did win that MVP last season from passing, they don't want to see a paradigm shift to where schools are churning out quarterbacks like Lamar, even though they are, but we can't put it to the forefront because now we can't have this influx of scrambling quarterbacks, even though inevitably this is where the league is going to go. The NFL wants to prolong the prototypical quarterback for as long as they possibly can. And we see what happens in this day to some of those prototypical quarterbacks. quarterbacks. Because, listen, he's on my fantasy team, but Justin Herbert, he's that pocket passer. And once again, one playoff appearance, one loss. All this talent, all these passing records, what has he accomplished? Nada. But he gets a pass, and he became the highest paid in the NFL, and no one questioned it. But with Lamar, it is a different story. So for me, is it Super Bowl or bust? Nah, because Lamar has time. Lamar still has an opportunity to grow. This organization has an opportunity to surround him with more offensive talent, and they can go out and win a Super Bowl. His career is not done by far, so it's not Super Bowl or bust. I wish for them to win a Super Bowl for personal reasons, for selfish reasons. I want Lamar to win a championship just to shut people up, because I want to hear what they have to say. Joe Burrow's a great quarterback. Yes, he went to a Super Bowl. He didn't win it. But outside of 2 seasons, in that Super Bowl, what has Joe Burrow done? But he gets grace. He gets praise. And I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback. But the undue and unfair expectation and weight that's on Lamar's shoulders is not put on these other quarterbacks that have done less than he has. And that's all that I'm saying. So to sum the 2024, this upcoming season, there's a lot riding on Lamar's legacy. Some feel that this is the year that he is definitively going to put that stamp on the NFL and put everybody on notice. And for me, yes, I would have loved to have had a Super Bowl last season, but if we can get one this season, it would make it a little more sweeter for me, because everyone saw that last year was a down year for the Kansas City Chiefs, and if we'd have beat them, cool, but the excuse would have been, they just weren't as good as they used to be, and you caught them slipping. So this year they've retooled, they've added a bunch of pieces so we can beat them this year. For me, it's going to make it a little more sweet. There will be no excuses once we get past Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. That should add to Lamar's legacy, and that's all I want. I just want my quarterback to be recognized for what and who he is. I don't want to give him no extra props because I'm a homer. I don't want to try to put him somewhere that he isn't, but he is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But they will continue to push their narrative. They will continue to rank their quarterbacks. Do as you must, but I will leave you with this. As of this point right now, Lamar Jackson has been to the same heights that Josh Allen has, except for Lamar has more hardware.
Nah, man, I'm cool.